Hi, I'm Richard Yeager Stiver, the pastor at Grosse Pointe Congregational Church. I want to welcome you to our Sunday worship service. Here is our sermon, and following our sermon is information as to how you can attend our Zoom services in the future and how to give online. We only make these ministries possible through the gifts that you give. Thank you.
A story shared by Pastor Timothy Merrill was told after his family purchased the nativity scene through the internet. He claims, "My wife and I spotted a small advertisement about nativity scenes which offered nativity figures hand carved by a Chinese woodcarver. The 16-piece set included a stable, animals, and everyone who would have made an appearance at the manger visit. We made the order, and in time for Christmas, the package arrived. After assembling the stable, we unwrapped the hand-carved pieces and placed them in the scene. And the pieces were beautiful. We were quite happy with the craftsmanship and the uniqueness of the display. But then we noticed something odd. We couldn't find the baby Jesus. Since the set also came in a large wooden box, a box that was full of styrofoam peanuts, old newspapers used for wrapping, we sifted through everything, pawing around, throwing stuff in the air. Soon our living room looked like the floor of a UPS shipping center, but still no baby. The website said the baby Jesus was included. Where's the baby? Where's Jesus? We wrote to the woodcarver about the missing baby, and he replied that he had discontinued carving the baby because customers invariably lost the little baby wood carving in the shipment. I asked him, of course, if he would carve a baby Jesus for us, and he said yes, though it would not arrive in time for Christmas, but we were fine with that. We figured it'd probably be, February until the baby arrived, agreeing that that was fine, that they actually forgot they had a missing baby until one showed up in the mail later that spring, around March, long after the nativity scene had been put away, which becomes a great reminder, he says, to ask ourselves, do we only recall Jesus as missing when it's time to put out the nativity scene, or do we allow Jesus to be present daily? Another question that came up, have we misplaced or lost Jesus so frequently that we just simply choose to omit him altogether, forgetting to ship him, forgetting to receive him? Which is likely the key question we need to ask ourselves for this Christmas. Do we have room for Jesus in our lives? It's tough to imagine we don't, yet with all the other stuff cluttering our minds and our lives and even our hearts, with a global pandemic, a gun shooting in Oxford, gun threats around the state which have caused multiple school districts to close their doors or simply go virtually. And on top of that is the ongoing global pandemic with all of its variants and the recent deaths of our loved ones and friends that we've experienced. Certainly our lives and our minds and our hearts are full of concern and grief and sorrow. In addition, there's only 5 days left until Christmas. So I suspect the demands we have placed on ourselves is overwhelming. Placing a pause here in our lives, I invite you to consider, do we have room in ourselves to squeeze Jesus into all that stuff? Do we have room for him to sit with us and join with us in our activities? Do we have room for him when we go online and scroll through Facebook posts and read emails? Do we have room for him when we are chatting with someone in person or on the phone, or when we're texting or doing a Zoom session? Do we have room for him when we're watching the news? Do we have room for him when we are driving or when we're sheltering in place? The risk we take is if we don't have room for him, then we omit a spiritual connection with him. And without his presence, when we are involved in these things, there is the possibility that we aren't open to God's Spirit when we need the right words to respond to a conversation. Or perhaps open to God's Spirit so we can receive the joy that is brought to us by having room for him. After all, making room for him isn't supposed to be a negative, somber thing. Having room for Jesus isn't supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to offer us comfort. Having room for him is exciting and joyful. Jesus came to fill our lives with good things and to fill our lives with hope and peace even though the world and the events around this season attempts to distract us and threaten to take our hope and our joy away, especially as we're prepping for Christmas. There's a certain element of stress and expectations which likely risks our sanity and tests our patience. We are tempted to stress out, freak out. Yet, with room for Jesus in our lives, we can approach the season with calmness and clarity. One way to do this is to be mindful that Jesus is central in our lives and in our relationships with each other. So when we read an email or read discouraging or upsetting information in the news, or before we make comments or type a text response or even make a phone call, we're encouraged to center ourselves and recognize that we represent Christ with our words, our decisions, and our reactions. A second way to approach the season with calmness is to allow the songs of this Christmas season to remind us to shove things out of the way and make room for Jesus. And not just squeeze him in, we are encouraged to put Jesus out front, just as we do when he set up the nativity scene. We place Jesus out in front and at the center. It makes things easier. If you notice the showcase, you put Jesus in the middle, and then everybody just kind of fills in. The sages from the east are on one side, and their goods from the market. And the shepherd and women who waited on Mary on the other side. And as each person brings their tasks with them to the manger scene, even the angel who's up in the sky is set up behind Jesus. Jesus remains central, up front, and at the center. The central location brings peace and comfort and good news. With Jesus up front and at the center in our lives, with everything else in our lives bunched up around him, like we bunch up everyone to admire the child lying in a manger, then it's likely we will find peace in this season. We'll recognize that with Jesus in the center of our lives, we'll exercise patience and clarity. We may even launch into a song, as Mary launched into a song to celebrate God's strength and actions. With Jesus at the center of our lives through us, he will once again fill the hungry with good things, live through our hearts and hands so we're able to love each other and we're enabled to care for persons around us. With Jesus at the center, we'll welcome misfits and outcasts. We'll discover how to create justice for all people, not just those who belong to our tribe or who live in our neighborhoods. With Jesus at the center, we will see incredible miracles as we witness the hand of God reach into our world to bring healing and provide an intervention on behalf of those who are oppressed by social, economic struggles, bigotry, or hatred. With Jesus at the center of our lives, we can enjoy Christmas, just as the angels enjoyed Christmas as they filled the night sky with a marvelous melody that proclaimed Jesus' birth. Just as the shepherd enjoyed Christmas as they rushed to Bethlehem to witness God's little miracle. Just as the Magi enjoyed Christmas and adored the mighty King lying in a manger. And just as we enjoy Christmas, recognizing that Jesus is the central reason we gather, and he's the amazing gift that blesses us every day with his presence. He arrives this Christmas season and asks, "Do you have room for me? May I come right in and fill you with peace and love?" Accepting him into our lives and giving him our centered attention, he can help us navigate our broken world with hope. And though some of us may have broken hearts filled with sorrow during this season, he is the one who can mend us and bring necessary calming renewal to our spirits. He is the one who supplies us with joy for this Christmas season. And joyfully, he's the one who reminds us that God's love surrounds us always. So the question to ask yourself this week, and as we edge closer to the actual Christmas Day event, have you made room for Jesus?